Hello, Newsmax Daily Podcast fam. Kay Hill here from Million Voices, filling in today for Tony Marino, who is out on a very special assignment. The date is Thursday, April 24th, and Tony will be back next week. Don't you worry, you've only got a few days of listening to this Welsh accent. And to be honest with you, I think we're going to get right into it today. First up is my favorite new panel on Newsmax. Greg, Kelly and Rob Schmitt joined Carl Higbie's Frontline. And guys, for a minute, listening to these three legends of the anchor chair, I forgot that I was watching them on, I think I was watching them on TV last night and then YouTube this morning. I thought we were all out at a steak dinner together. I mean, how many news anchors can you say that you feel like you're actually friends with? None, basically, unless they're on Newsmax. So let's get into it.
A U.S. news report points out that the 5 most dangerous cities are Memphis, St. Louis, Detroit, Birmingham, Little Rock. And it's like, I look at this thing, they're all Democrat-run cities, and they're the ones who are trying to dictate our crime.
And sometimes they play this clever little game. Like Memphis, that's a red state.
Yeah.
That's a red state. So it's a Trump territory. Yeah. These are Trump people. I want to just say this about the two people who, I think they did the right thing. If they don't have a weapon, that's kind of what you have to do. Give them all your stuff.
Yeah.
You're looking at me like I'm a crazy person.
Because
but
why would you not have a weapon?
I will be alive. That's true. Carl and I, well, Carl, you live on a farm. Yeah. I live, quite frankly, in New York City. If I get caught with one, I'm going to jail for a minimum of a year. You know Plaxico Burress, a football player?
Carl can carry in New York City, though.
I was the one who sued New York for my right to carry. I'm going through the process right now.
You're a very litigious person, all right? This would.
I just like to pick a fight, Greg.
It would interfere on my leisure activities. I can't. But, again, if you don't have a gun, give them everything you got.
Yeah. All right, Rob, this might have been like the highlight of my day to listen to Jasmine Crockett on Jimmy Kimmel. Roll this.
And when you bring up the idiot known as Elon Musk, he is not only like very sinister and has no idea of what he's doing, and people are like, oh no, he absolutely knows because he's the richest man in the world. Like, yes, he knows how to hire smart people, but don't conflate that and believe that he is the genius, because he ain't.
He also called you low IQ. I'm sure you're aware of that. Would you be willing to take an IQ test publicly, head-to-head against the President of the United States?
Absolutely.
Do it.
You know, I have to listen to this Nimrod every day now because she's a part of my X feed. Like, I get inundated by her because I watched a couple videes that had her in it.
Well, I actually follow her.
It gets worse. Yeah, and that's true. I think the most I think detestable thing about this young congresswoman from Texas is that, you know,
rising star,
how fraudulent her personality is. She is a very well-educated, bratty girl from a good family that grew up with money, and has now morphed herself into this kind of ghetto fab. I mean, this is the way she talked last night is probably closer to her real, actual personality and the way that she speaks, whatever that word is. She is not that. I mean, she's not what she portrays herself to be. When she goes into campaign rallies, when she speaks to her voters, she turns into something completely different, and that just shows me that she's just a crummy actress. Yeah. She probably wanted to go to Hollywood, she couldn't make it, so here she is in Washington trying to do it another way. That's what I see when I look at her.
Greg's chomping at the bit here.
No, I'm not really chomping at the bit. I mean, I get it, I do, but I'm kind of like, look, we're elevating her by complaining about her, right? I
agree. I want to elevate her. I want people to see.
I mean, conservative media spends way too much time reacting to, like, CNN. Oh my God, CNN did something ridiculous. So
they do it to us too. You know?
I know, but there's a point where, look, if we keep reacting, if we keep complaining about their narrative, we're not setting our own narrative, and that's why I'm very excited about, I think, what you're about to bring up.
Oh, actually, you did have something. This is crazy that you did a whole thing on social media about this, about what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania.
Yeah. So watch the guy with the gun. All right. So as soon as President Trump is in the vehicle, this man, whatever he is, Secret Service, National Guard, I don't know.
Night vision during the day.
That's another weird thing.
Yeah.
Seems to be pointing the weapon right at the vehicle. Now, I put this on social. It got about at Greg Kelly USA, by the way, and you can weigh in. 90% of the people out there had not noticed.
I'd never noticed this.
And I only noticed it recently myself, and that's why I went to town. And very, very helpful comments. And there's some people actually who break it down. I'm going to break it down for you tonight at 9 o'clock, all right? But it begets a much larger issue about the whole Butler situation.
As promised, we're going to carry on now immediately with Greg Kelly for the latest on the Trump assassination attempt. For those of you listening to the show, don't worry. Greg does an excellent job of describing the videos that he's playing. So just listen along, you'll understand.
Welcome. This program made a huge splash last night as we revealed something that puzzled me and millions of other people about the July 13th assassination attempt on President Trump. I had never seen it before, and millions of you also had never seen it before, although some of you actually did and had some interesting things to say about it. I'm going to show you what we're talking about. We're going to get to the new evidence in a moment, but first, what we previewed last night right here. So take a look, if you will. This is Butler, Pennsylvania. This is the moment President Trump, he's been led from the stage. He's given another fist pump. He's about to get in the vehicle and drive off. And something very odd happens with this gentleman right here, or so we thought. It's an armed individual. I'm not sure what he's affiliated with. He also strangely has night vision goggles. All right, and sunset wasn't scheduled that day for 8:50 p.m. And this individual appears to be aiming his rifle right at the cabin, right at the windshield. And then he puts his weapon down. It's strange, but there is an explanation. But first, there are a lot of people who had a motive to kill President Trump, and they're still out there, and they're still talking about it. And these are very, very, very powerful people. One of them, the former Vice President of the United States, Dick Cheney, who seemed to give moral and legal justification to kill President Trump.
In our nation's 246-year history, there has never been an individual who is a greater threat to our republic than Donald Trump.
Think about that. Our 246-year history, never been an individual who was a greater threat to our republic than Donald Trump. Hitler, Stalin, Hirohito. I mean, for crying out loud, we were almost taken over a couple of times during World War II. That is such an incendiary, dangerous, and false thing to say, but maybe he really believes it. And so does his daughter, of course, Liz. In her silly book about the January 6th committee, she writes this: "My father gave me a hug. Then he looked at me with steel in his voice and said, 'Defend the Republic, daughter.' 'I will, Dad,' I said, 'always.'" Given that they believe that President Trump is a threat, the #1 threat this country has ever faced, yeah, I'm deeply suspicious. And folks, we don't have answers to questions, and most questions, quite frankly, haven't even been asked. How far away was that man with the gun? Approximately 30 to 40 feet. That's the estimate we came up with. President Trump is not out of the woods by any means. He is the most targeted man in the world, and it looks to me that very powerful people still want him dead. And just today, his home and office in New York City was stormed by environmental activists who defaced the property. By the way, what if he had a weapon? What if he had a bomb? What if he had anything? 2 months ago, the same damn thing happened. Do you remember? A bunch of anti-Semites stormed that place and took it over, and they were yelling and screaming, you know, free Palestine, all that nonsense. And they sat down. It was a major operation. They took over the lobby of Trump Tower. And I thought it would have been fixed by now. Sometimes I overestimate the impact of media coverage, but I went over there myself about 6 hours later to see what the security situation was. That place is open to the public, way too much so. All right? In Israel, when you go to the movies, you go through metal detectors. They look in your bag. Trump Tower, the home and office in New York, the symbol of Donald Trump himself, you can just walk on in.
It is insane, Greg. It is insane. Greta Van Susteren is joined by Education Secretary Linda McMahon to discuss how schooling needs serious reform in every way, shape, and form. And personally, I hope that if we start teaching our youngest generations a little differently, maybe, we maybe won't see so many insane things. Maybe.
Universities, a lot of them, I don't know if they all are nonprofits. What is it? I mean, that means, I assume that has some advantage to them. I mean, nonprofit could just mean they don't make any money. They just keep paying everybody more, I suppose. But why are they nonprofits, and what do they get out of it?
Well, they get a lot more federal funding. So nonprofits, that's for one thing. But I think the president, has said he's going to start looking at nonprofit status for some of these universities, because he's not sure that they ought to be 501c3s when they're getting a lot of the federal money that they're getting, and they are making so much money that they can have these endowments. Harvard's like almost $53 billion with its endowments now.
Well, I think it's very important for the government to partner with universities for research, medicine, and all that. So I do too. I think that's extremely important that we do that. And I do think that having the arts, there's something to be said about having the arts. I don't know if we should be paying for them, though. That's a whole sort of national discussion. All right, student loans. What's going to happen with them?
Starting May 5th, you're going to have to start paying back your student loans. And
you mean people haven't been paying till now?
Since March of 2020, there has been no, we haven't gone after the money since March of 2020. But have they been paying, or they're paying the interest on them, or what?
Well,
it's mixed. Those that aren't paying any interest right now. But we have about 5 million people out of the 47, I think, million people who have student loans, but about 5 million are not paying. So the cost since March has gone up about $60 billion, and it's still going up. $60 million. It's still going up, and we've just absolutely. We can't put that burden on taxpayers.
Well, if I think about it, if I get a car and I don't pay my car loan, it's going to be repossessed. It's going to be repossessed. Mm-hmm. If somebody doesn't pay student loans,
yeah, you can't take back the degree.
Well, is there any recourse to get these people? Get people?
Well, what we're doing, we're giving them the opportunity to pay back. First of all, they can have programs that are tied to their income, and so we're putting up those programs so they can access. They go to studentaid.gov. They can see how they can get back into the payment program. But IRS has a pretty strong arm. Wages can be garnished, tax refunds can be garnished, and so that is one recourse.
I guess I circle back then to the universities because I don't think I think students would like to pay back their loans. I think that some of them just have such economic troubles for whatever reason. They can't get the jobs, everything. They just can't make the payments, and they're drowning in these loans because they thought they had to go to these schools. They thought they had to pay this amount of money, and their families paid a lot, and it's been a burden on the families, and it's just so out of kilter.
Well, there's some discussion as well that universities or colleges ought to co-sign maybe on some of these loans. So if students default because they've
well, that's actually an interesting idea.
Yeah. So the colleges have some skin in the game. That might bring down the cost of tuition a bit as well. So there's different ways to look at it.
And they might be inspired to help them get jobs more,
Absolutely.
too. Because they don't want students to default on them.
And that's all for today, folks. Once again, I am Kay Hill, filling in for Tony Marino. Tune in again tomorrow for more from the Newsmax Daily podcast. The date today is Thursday, April 24th. And God bless you all.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.